Welcome back, Last Man in episode 152. All about free agency, especially for the Jets, because they did something this year. First time in 3 years, we actually got to talk about positive signings for the Jets.
First time ever.
Yeah. They don't really sign people. Exactly.
Because technically, Ole Jokinen was signed on July 2nd.
So Cam's decided to ditch us this week. He had other important issues to attend to. I think what he's doing is he's celebrating Steve Mason's no longer a Philadelphia Flyer. I don't know. Maybe he's celebrating that Steve Mason is a Winnipeg Jet. I don't know. It's one or the other.
It's definitely not that one.
Yeah, no.
He might be.
He's doing so. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but he's definitely not eating Skittles like Dan's trying to do right now.
Try and do it quiet. If you hadn't said anything, no one would know.
Yeah, but I know because I can
know.
see it. I know. So obviously, lots to get to today's episode. Talk about the two big signings the Jets made, how the Jets stack up going forward. Talking just a little bit about that, the future cap situation of the Winnipeg Jets, of course, and then going on from there, talking about the big signings around the NHL, a lot, as well as just a couple trades that happened, and then I guess the future signings as well, because Carey Price got his big contract, which we'll obviously have to talk about how that gauges the market for everyone else. And McDavid is still unsigned along with Leon Draisaitl. So let's get started right away with the defensive signing that the Jets made, signing Dmitri Kulikov for 3 years at 4.333333 repeated.
All the threes.
Yeah, for the next 3 years. So Matt's here for those who don't know. I didn't introduce him earlier. Matt, you're a Jets fan.
No Cam.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck Cam. You're a huge Jets fan. What do you think of the Kulikov move?
I think it's a good step forward above Sherratt, for sure. It's another guy that's injury prone, so it's another thing that we have problems with already with Myers and Enstrom and all those guys. But
well, even Buff.
Yeah, Buff's been good the last 2 years. It's just he's got bad knees. He's 100 or not 100, 200 and something pounds, like 260 pounds. He's gonna have bad knees.
I wouldn't know that. I'm 6'5" and I'm 280 and I don't have bad knees.
Yeah, but you're 25.
26.
It's coming. Oh, that's right.
That's why I'm knocking on wood.
It's coming.
Hopefully your dog doesn't bark thinking someone's at the door.
I think we're okay.
But definitely makes our defense a lot better. That's at least what I think. You have him and Bufflin on a pairing. Myers and Enstrom can be a top 4 pairing, but you already have Morrissey and Trouba as your number 1 pairing. So what does that make Buff and Kulikov? Another 3-4 pairing essentially.
Well, what they are is they're two more guys that can soak up 20 plus minutes. And when you think about it, it'll shelter Myers and Enstrom enough that Enstrom's not going to get exposed. If Enstrom's playing less than 20 minutes a night, I think that's a good thing for the Jets. Myers, to ease him back in, I think it'll be a good thing for him to be playing less than 20 minutes a night. But it gives them versatility on basically any line. They can match up defensively how they want to. They can kind of have Morrissey and Trouba as the offensive duo, have Enstrom and Myers more focused on the defensive side of the game, and then just have the wild cards of Dmitri Kulikov and Dustin Bufflin.
I think another thing that it does is if you can go this route, but I don't think they will, but on the PK, you don't have to have 4 certain guys that go like one and after another. You can literally just roll those pairings all the time. They could just never stop rolling until you have a power play where you're going to put out Trouba and you're going to put out Buff. And those will be your 2 guys that will go on the power play. But after that, you can just have Myers and Enstrom go back out and then just keep your rotation going all game. And then no one ever gets tired.
No, exactly. And everyone's in the game. They're engaged. And I think the big thing, too, is if you look, everyone's talked about the Jets' right side D. With Myers, Trouba, and Bufflin since we got Myers. Everyone's talked about how strong that is, but the biggest hole that we've had is we haven't had a good left-handed defenseman to fill out our top 6, and finally, for the first time, we have that solid defensive guy. Now you have a number 7 in Ben Sherratt. You also still have Nelson Noje. They have depth now within the organization with this Dmitri Kulikov move, and going forward, after this year, they can have that power and that opportunity to re-sign Enstrom at a lower cost, and this Dmitri Kulikov deal is going to be fine moving forward, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you're the Jets fan.
I'm a Jets fan, right? Well, I mean,
you're not upset. Like when we were talking about it, you weren't upset.
No, I was happy. I mean, I did some digging. If you look at his stats, I mean, everyone said Carl Alsner was the best defenseman available this draft, but if you look at Kulikov's stats, not really any different. I mean, he had 28 points in 2012-13. That was his career high. He had 26 points the year before. He had 22 points 2 years ago with Florida. So, I mean, I think Alsner's career high in points was like 21.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, maybe not as defensively sound as Karl Osner, but probably one of the top 2 or 3 defensemen that was available this year. So if you look at it from that sense, I think it's a good deal because I don't really know who else they could have gotten.
You also look at Florida, not last year, but the year before, they had Goodbranson and Kulikov as their shutdown unit.
Yeah.
And then they both got traded, and look what happened.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah. That's a good point.
From
You
just,
lose that depth on D, that's huge.
from doing some digging, it sounds like he plays a lot of penalty kill, or he did play a lot of penalty kill in Florida. He played more of a defensive role, which is nice because if he can slot in on the penalty kill, then Dustin Byfuglien doesn't have to play PK. You take his minutes down, he's more effective. Because a lot of that 30 to 32 minutes he was playing last year is because he probably had to play PK and power play.
Well, now you can have
Now you look
Morrissey
at Kulikov.
Trouba
Well,
that
you can do more. You can
soak
do.
up. No, I'm just saying Morrissey and
Toby
Trouba can soak up.
Toby can play
those
penalty
minutes,
kill.
too.
Myers can play. You have so many more options. I mean, if you look at their top 6, if everyone's healthy, they really don't have a 5th or 6th caliber defenseman. They have top 4 defensemen for their all 6 guys.
Yeah, and I think
The way
you
that I
can-
look at it. I mean, Toby's kind of going on the back 9 of his career. I mean, he's into that now, but I still think he's a top 4.
Yeah.
He's probably a 4, but he's still a top 4. So.
I
I saw some highlights of Kulikov. He looks like he's a physical guy too. Likes to hit.
He had
So
that hit on Voracek a couple years ago was great.
I think he's
Yeah,
gonna.
fuck you, Cam.
There you go. I do think he's gonna slot beside Byfuglien on the second pair to
Yeah.
start.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I remember talking about it last year is, amidst all of my trade Byfuglien conspiracy theories that I had, was the fact that I always said you need to manage Dustin Byfuglien's minutes, and I think that this gives them the opportunity to manage all of their 6 players' minutes, because now you're not catering to a weaker set of defensemen. And if this team goes to the playoffs and these 6 players are healthy, and if the dog could stop barking, that'd be fantastic. And you go, man, someone's outside, and you can go forward with these 6 players. I don't know how you defend against that moving forward. Because you're going to have a defensive pairing that matches up against every line. You're going to have guys who can shut down certain players. You're going to have players that are...
Well, if you have any lines that have too much speed, that's Morrissey and Trouba gets those guys right away.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you have guys that are physical, Buff and Kulikov get that matchup. There's a way for them to match up against everyone now, and it's gonna be great on the ice.
It's going to be a positive change, and hopefully this leads to more confidence going to the back end for goaltenders, which...
We should point out, though, that they did buy out Mark Stewart the day before free agency started, which is probably a sign that they were going to sign someone.
Yeah.
So
I was really hoping they were just going to keep him.
I will say, I was surprised they actually bought him out. I thought they'd ride him out for a year and then just let him go, but...
Really? You're going to grab Skittles now.
Oh, I can hear the
You give
entire
me
thing.
shit, so-
I knew that.
Well, you know what?
Okay, fine.
gonna grab some too.
Aggressive. Regardless.
Yeah,
So the Jets sign a goaltender to hopefully help them. Steve Mason for 2 years at 4.1.
exact same cap he had in Philly. Actually, both guys they signed, people said they might have to overpay. They're actually paying Kulikov and Mason the exact same salaries that they were getting on their previous contracts.
Much good asset management.
Well, I mean, both guys had down years last year, though, so...
One of them was hurt for most of the year.
Yeah, but you could argue that maybe they weren't worth their cap hit because their production went down, but...
Yeah, but a change of scenery can change that too. Like every time Mason's gone to a new team, he's performed much better.
This is a guy who's won a Calder Cup, or Calder Trophy, pardon me. This is a guy who led a team to the playoffs by himself with the Columbus Blue Jackets back in 2008.
Well, he did it with 2 years ago or last year when Philly made the playoffs. He was a big reason why.
So, what are your thoughts of this signing, though? Because it is a lot of people and I remember it when you heard Steve Mason in the news, everyone kind of groaned.
I called it from day one. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
Well,
okay, but
I kind of groaned because the beginning of last week, all you heard was Brian Elliott was looking for a house here. He's already, he's done, right? And then halfway through the week, you hear that Steve Mason now is the guy that they want. So,
and I think
when you look at the two, like to me, I think Elliott's been a better goalie. But
well, not just that, he's also into his mentoring years, right?
But
like
at the
he's
same
much
time,
older.
I feel like Mason gives them more flexibility. He's 29, Elliott's 32. So they signed Mason for 2 years, but say Hellebuck's progression is slower, or they, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out with Hellebuck and they bring Comrie up in 2 years. They need more time. Mason's only 31 at that point.
Yeah.
You can bring him back.
Or
Elliot's
Mason becomes
34
a
at that
stud for
point.
you.
Well, but you have to look at his stats. Like I didn't know too much about the guy. All I knew is that Cam hated him because he played for the Flyers.
Yeah,
and
fuck
the
you,
Flyers
Cam.
were terrible, but I don't think it was totally his fault. But if you look at his stats, last year he had a bad year. He had 908 save percentage.
Which is better than the Jets goal.
The 4 years before that in Philly, he had a 918, a 928, a 917, and a 944. Granted, the 944 was only in 7 games.
Okay.
But still, he had a 918, 928, and 917 playing minimum of 51 games.
That's pretty solid.
That's way better than anything we've ever had.
Oh,
Yep.
not even close.
So,
and the other thing, too, when you think about that, that's on a team with arguably way worse defense.
well, and that's the other thing. I think the Jets have a better roster than Philly.
And I think with getting guys like Dmitri Kulikov, your shot suppression's better as well. So that kind of thing. Your ability to force guys change their angles on shots, because you're not using Ben Sherratt, you're not using Nelson Noje, you're using a solid guy who's been in the league. He knows how to play a little bit better. Minus, there's.
Well, and people have to remember,
It's not
too,
very
like, his career stats are much better than Andre Pavlik's.
good. Oh yeah,
And his salary is less than what Pavlik was making. So even if he doesn't...
much less.
Not much, but it's
The
less.
No, it's more.
No, the cap hits.
Pavlik's cap hit
200.
was 4...
No, it was 3.9.
No,
Oh, was it
Pavlik's was
3.9?
3.9.
Pavlik was making 4.75
Anyway,
or something
so it's
last year.
roughly the same money. So even if it doesn't work out great, they didn't overpay like crazy for a goalie.
No, and I think the other thing too was the Brian Elliott thing fell through, in my opinion, because Elliott wants to be number one in this league. He's ready to play 55 plus games a year. That's what he wants, 50 to 55. And I think the Jets went to and they said you're going to play 40 to 45 games because they want to split the guys between Hellebuck and Mason, and they want that split so Hellebuck gets time to develop. Because if Hellebuck's only playing 20 games, 20, 30 games a year, it's going to hurt his development. If he's playing, 38, 39 games, every game he can get into, and if the team is confident, because it doesn't matter who's playing. Remember that time a couple years ago when Hutchinson and Pavlik were interchangeable, and that team had a bunch of chemistry? Everything was flowing because it didn't matter who was playing in net. You knew they were going to give you the rest, and it breeds confidence in everyone else. And if one guy gets hot, just like the year that the Jets made the playoffs, Hutchinson was hot, then Hutchinson got cold, Pavlik got hot, and that's how they made the playoffs. And that might be how this team makes the playoffs next year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree.
Because you have the
I think
ability
they'll
to
split
interchange
the first
goals.
60 games, and then I think whoever's hot in the last 20 gets most of the starts.
Yeah, and I also think that, if one of them goes down to injury, Comrie's up right away, and he's getting the majority of the starts.
Well, even bring Hutch. I mean, you have to assume that Hutch is going to go to the AHL.
Or that he's going to get dealt.
But who wants him?
Who wants? Yeah, it's
No
Okay.
one's going to take him.
I have a theory
Put him on waivers, he might get picked up.
that
But
you might be able to get a pick from Toronto, because Toronto only has Curtis McElhinney, who was fine last year and had decent numbers, but at least Hutchinson, that if, for instance, Frederick Anderson goes down for the Leafs, they only have Curtis McElhinney and Garrett Sparks. And being a Leaf fan, I'm not very excited about those two guys.
No.
At least if Michael Hutchinson's there, he's a guy with solid NHL experience already. Like, he's got over 100 starts. Regardless, he's played against tough teams. He's been in a situation playing behind a terrible team and carrying them at times. He's a decent enough goalie to be a backup in the NHL. I don't think it's a case that no one wants him. It's the Jets' asking price might be slightly too high right now.
Well, I don't think the Jets want to lose him. I think they'll
No,
try
exactly.
and stick him in the AHL. Because he
And-
can mentor Eric Comrie in the AHL, right?
Exactly.
Kind of like Pavlik was.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is if I'm Vegas, I might be making a phone call to the Jets for Michael Hutchinson too.
Sorry, Greg, you're wrong. He has 99 NHL starts.
99. Damn it! Oh, hate being wrong. Regardless, I think that there is a place for Michael Hutchinson somewhere in the NHL, not necessarily in Winnipeg. I'd be shocked if in either not this year, but in the next 2 years he's not in the NHL or playing somewhere. Because Winnipeg's got their
somewhere.
future.
You look at how many ex-Jets got signed this weekend.
Well, and I want to get to that. but-
He'll be somewhere.
Yeah, because it's... You know what ex-Jets don't get signed? The Nick Achepovs, Kyle Wellwoods of the world. But you know which ex-Jets get signed? The Andre Pavliks and Chris Thorburns.
And Anthony Pelusos.
And the Plusos, which we'll get to.
And the Postmas, thank Jesus.
Oh,
I was so happy
I
when
was
I
so
saw
happy
that.
about that.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
regardless, so with these changes, are they a playoff team now?
I think they can be.
Because even
You know, let's-
Cheveldayoff said that this team has shifted now. They're no longer in that rebuild stage. They are in the win window now.
Let me rephrase that.
This is the time that they need to win. Maybe not next year, but this is when they have to build to it.
They have to make the playoffs this year. There's no choice. They have to.
Otherwise, you blow up.
Yeah. They have to.
You trade Trouba.
Whether that means they're done for free agency, I don't know. I think what they've done is good enough to help to address the major. Like, they have no problem scoring goals.
Nope.
Well, they were one of the best in the leagues at doing it.
Yeah, they have no problem
It's
scoring
keeping
goals.
the puck out.
And you have to keep in mind that, Scheifele and Ehlers and Line are still probably going to get better. Guys like Wheeler and Little.
And if Little plays all year,
I mean, Scheifele's probably going to maybe you hope he stays where he is, but Line is going to get better.
Well, line is definitely going to get better.
Ehlers is going to get better. Guys like Wheeler and that have plateaued, but there's nothing wrong with where they are. So
If Little can stay healthy, like that first game was really what screwed us up.
Yeah.
As soon as Little went down this season, I shouldn't say it was over, but it was hard to come back from that.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know, we don't really have a lot of center depth there.
No.
When it comes to our top six, because Lowry's a good third line center.
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to jump into your.
and I don't think
second
Perot's a second line center.
line. No,
either.
he's not either.
I think he's better
Which is-
playing second line wing
I'm
than,
fine with that
than
too.
center. But I'm surprised they didn't go. I'm surprised they didn't sign a bottom six, like
It's
someone.
still time.
What about
There's
bottom
still-
sixes
There's
take
a couple
time?
of guys that I thought about. Maybe if you can get them on cheap deals.
Bottom six takes a lot of time. I think that normally those deals don't come right away, right? Like, it's very rare that the Chris Sorburns and the Chris Neals of the world get signed on July 1st.
But those are fringe fourth line guys.
I know.
I'm talking like an established guy.
I still think that Jaromir Jagr or Thomas Vanek,
Well,
why wouldn't you take a shot? They're going to be cheap. They're going to be short-term deals that are not going to affect your cap in the long run. You can sign Jagr for 2 years at $3 million, 2 years at $3.5, and then that's off the books when you got to go sign Line It.
see, I'm not crazy about Jagr just because of his age, but the Vanek, that's one that I thought, why not throw $2 or $3 million a year at him for a
You
couple
can
years?
throw $1.5 million at him probably.
He had 50 some odd points last year. He can still produce. He's a penalty killing guy too, as far as from what I know.
Yeah.
I mean, why not put him on your third line? He's a veteran.
see.
He's 32,
But he's played there. He's been there.
He's been there.
He knows what it takes to play in the playoffs. He knows what it takes to get there. He knows that stretch going in. And I think that any kind of help like that really helps a team out. And I think one of the most underrated players during getting to our playoffs was Lee Stepniak. And I was upset they didn't re-sign him. Although I don't know if I conveyed that when we had the podcast. But looking
I
back
think
on
we
it,
all
he's
did.
a solid player.
Well, they were also going in a different direction at the time.
Yeah, no, I know. I know.
If he was up this year, he'd be back. But 2 years ago, it was a little different.
Very true. Last question about the Jets. What do you think of their cap situation with these two signings? So about $8.4 million off their cap now.
Their projected space is just over 10.
So
Close to 11 mil.
moving forward, they have to sign what? Ehlers, Morrissey next season.
They have 22 out of 23 guys signed.
Trouba and
Little's a free agent at the end of the year.
who you have to re-sign
He'll be back.
for 5 probably.
4 to 5.
4 to 5. Trouba you got to sign for 7.
Truba's up. Ehlers is up.
Ehlers and Morrissey.
Armia is an RFA. Lowry's an RFA.
Is Morrissey up too?
Yes.
Okay.
And
So
so
those are that's some big money you owe next year.
Trouba's an RFA. Morrissey's an RFA. Patan's an RFA. Dan will be an RFA again.
Some of those guys you can get on cheap
And-
bridge deals.
I think Line gets signed at the end of this year, not next year.
I
They're going to save a lot of money if they sign him this year.
that's going to be
and
kind
they're
of the
still
trend.
going to spend a lot of money on him. But
I have a theory about the Line contract,
He's getting signed
which
in the year.
is obviously they're going to see what Draisaitl and McDavid
Oh,
make
for sure.
before, like those guys are going to gauge the market for the Matthews and Lines.
if McDavid gets 13 mil a year,
12, I think is the
12?
starting point.
If he gets 12 a year,
No. I
13
think if
and a half
McDavid's
If he
making
gets
13,
12 a year or 13 a year, Line is getting signed this summer because they can probably get him for 9 or 10, or maybe even 8.
no,
but
they
if-
won't get that cheap.
He'll probably be 9 or 10, but if you wait a year and he explodes, he's gonna want 12 or 13.
The problem that I have, and I know that people have made the comparisons, like
I'm not saying
With
he's
the
as good,
percentage of-
I'm saying
I know.
he's gonna want that though, right?
I just don't know if I'm like I know I've said this before, but if I'm the best player in my team, I want to be surrounded by other great players. Why am I soaking up all that money? for myself. And like I understand that they have a short window to make a ton of money, but I want to win. And that can factor in too, because if like maybe they don't sign Bryan Little if the Laine contract's $11 million for 8 years. Wow. Like they might not be able to. They might have to.
Though, he'll be 20 at the end of the year. Do you think they go a 5-6 year contract where it's 6 or 7, and then say in 5 years,
then you give him the
then you give him that.
Then you give him 8 or 10 years,
right?
Then you give him 8 or 10 years at 10
years.
at 10 11 mil until he'll that takes it from 25 to 35.
Here's the problem with that is
right. Do you try and do that?
Well, you can, but the whole purpose of why McDavid's going to make 13, why they're saying Draisaitl's going to make 10 is if you sign them to 8-year contracts, you're buying years of their UFA. Because when they're in UFA years, that's when they can demand the world. Well, so Laine is not going to be like, oh, so I just finished making $7 million for the last 5 years. Now I'm an unrestricted free agent. And because of this signing period beforehand, and I'm not saying he's going to do this, but this is the potential. Not everyone's Steven Stamkos is going to sign for $8.5 million. But a team can go to him and be like, let's say a Montreal can be like, okay, we'll give you $13 million because we need someone to play and score goals for us because we sure as hell can't because we were too busy signing Carl Alsner to the moon for no reason when our biggest problem wasn't stopping goals, it was scoring them. But we'll get the best defensive defenseman in the league because that's important to us. Sorry. Well, I had to go off there.
No, but you're right because if he goes to UFA status, even if they try and bring him back, he's going to get offers.
Exactly, and it's gonna be money, and it's gonna be lots of money.
So maybe you sign him for 10 years at the end of this year.
8 is the max.
Yeah, 8. Yeah, maybe you go 8 and you say, well, worry about it when you're 20. When you're
not 28. Everyone can be Shea Weber
because when Laine is 28, he can still cash in.
No, you're right, and most certainly can. Look what happened with Taves and Kane.
The other thing
that's when they made their money.
The other thing that I'm looking at here too. Say that they do make the playoffs this year. Blake Wheeler has a year left. Do you let your captain go into his last year without a deal? Or do you try and sign him at the end of this year?
The thing is you might have to let him go just to sign Laine.
Well, you might have to let him go
you
might have sign the players you need to sign. Because Hellebuck's still not signed either.
I think they let Bryan Little walk before they let Blake Wheeler walk.
Or you say Blake Wheeler,
personally would, and I think they would too.
The only thing is you don't have the center depth unless you think Roslovic will be able to jump into that slot.
But maybe you can find the depth somewhere else. Like you can bring someone in to...
It's not a case. I think there are players out there that you can
It's going to be tough, and you have to remember too that Hellebuck needs a contract right now.
Yeah, well, he'll sign a 2-year deal to match Mason's, so that when he's up, they're both up. Yeah. It'll just be one contract to do, and then you just have to sign Conway again.
But I mean, exactly. You have to look at if they sign Laine, Trouba, and Ehlers at the end of this year. Off the top of my head, that's $20 million probably for 3 guys.
Yeah, most certainly.
That's a lot of money.
It is, but this is the NHL we live in.
Granted, now, Toby's $6 million is off.
Well, yeah, but that's the only thing.
Bryan Little, though, I mean, you want to sign him, then you're up to $25 million for 4 guys.
Yeah.
So honestly, like I like Little, but he might just be.
That's the era we live in.
He might be the odd guy out this year just because they can't afford to do it.
And watch him score 35 goals this year.
He very well could.
Oh, jeez. Okay, moving forward now.
Then maybe they bite the bullet. I mean, they got $10 million in space, so.
Are you happy with the Jets right now with the moves they made for this year moving forward?
I'm happy, but I'd like them to add a forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Dan. If they add one, I still want them to get a 4th line center.
Yeah, because they signed who? They signed Michael Scarbosa.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he's a depth forward. I'm like, but who the hell is he?
He's gonna play for the Moose.
They signed him one way though.
Oh, doesn't matter. You can still play.
But to me, like, if that's the best you can do, sorry.
There's better out there. Okay. So let's move to the other craziness that happened. And before we get to free agency, I want to just quickly talk about the re-signings that occurred. And 2 re-signings in particular. Carey Price for 8 years at $10.5 per, now making the most money out of any goalie. What do you guys think of that contract?
He should be making the most out of any goalie. It's the best one.
It's a great contract, but in 5 years, I don't think it's going to... Well, you know what? Maybe not 5, but the last 2 or 3 years, they're going to be hating themselves for doing that. You know what? They didn't really have a choice.
I find it.
Could they have gone 8 years? Maybe. I don't know.
They did go 8 years.
I thought it was 10 years.
No, 8 years.
Okay.
There's no 10-year contracts.
Right, you're right.
Get that through your head. You're a smart guy. 8-year contracts.
I've seen so many numbers this week.
I know it is a lot of numbers.
I mean, they had to do what they had to do. I just think the last couple of years that might not be the best contract. But
understandable.
If it comes to not signing him, or now, or just or dealing with it later,
Well, it's either letting
deal
him
with it
walk
later.
or, which I don't think
you can always buy him out in the last couple of years if you really want to.
Nah.
Not that that's going to
I
happen.
don't think Marc Bergevin will be there. I think Marc Bergevin will. The guy who comes in next will just trade him for something. Maybe
after
that's
this
how
year?
they get a center. Is they'll trade Price for 6 centers.
I have to say though, like if you look at Montreal right now, they're a lot worse than they were at the end of the season.
They are
a lot worse.
Go to their cap friendly right now
Like a lot worse.
because
They're not the only team I think is worse. But
the moves they've made just boggle my mind because, like I said in my mini rant, they picked up Carl Alzner, which is a fine pickup, but why put $4 million? It's 4.85 or something like that he's making. For the next 4 years, why put that money towards a defensive defenseman instead of getting either offensive defenseman or getting a forward? I understand that now you have your number one defensive pairing short up, Alzner and Weber, and that's fine. That's going to be good for the next few years. That's totally fine, and I think Alzner can hide the fact that Weber's first pass isn't that strong anymore and that his shot suppression isn't as good as it used to be. I think that he'll be able to help him, but I fail to see how they're a better team today than what they were at the end of last year when they got spanked out of the first round by the New York Rangers,
and the thing
who ended up losing to the Ottawa Senators, who were awful.
The thing I don't get is that Bergevin came out and said that, well, at what Radulov and Markov want, we can't afford to sign them. Even after the Carey Price contract, I get that he's making 6.5 this year and then he goes up to 10.5 the year after. They have $14 million in cap space right now.
You also got to sign Galchenyuk, which is
that's the revolving door. Is he going to stay or is he going to go? Right, but I'm sorry. I think they're worse. Look at they have Shea Weber and Carl Alzner as their top pair, which is not terrible.
And then you have Jeff Petrie.
But the rest of their defense is not very good.
I don't think Jeff Petrie is that amazing.
Jordy Ben, Davidson, Schlemko.
He's not
Petrie.
terrible.
Even Alzner, he's not a top pairing defenseman. He's a second pairing defenseman at best. He's a good 4, but I don't think he's a top pair.
I think you have to gauge his minutes. You can't.
He's a defensive. He's a good defensive top 4, but I don't think he's a top pair.
My biggest thing with them is who's running your power play.
There's nobody.
There's no one to run the power play. Weber has the shot on the side, but there's no quarterback.
Drouin?
You're gonna put Drouin in that middle spot to run.
You might
that
have
might
to.
be the only thing to do.
Drouin's probably the best contract they have on their team.
No, Pacioretty's the best contract they have on their team. For what they're paying,
they're
paying him.
Pacioretty's got 2 years left, and he's UFA.
I know, and they're probably will have a tough time resigning him.
But Drouin is just coming into his own, and he's signed for 5 years at 5.
I can't
to me, that's a good contract.
I feel like we hate on the Montreal Canadiens a lot, but it's like the Jim Benning stuff. It is so easy to hate on bad moves, and it's hard not to see moves like Nick Bonino and be like, why didn't they try to get Nick Bonino? Because he'd at least be a depth center.
They did sign Alex Hemsky today.
Oh!
1 year,
wow!
That was a good
because
trade.
he was good in 2007.
I'm just gonna say he doesn't really add anything. I'm just saying they did sign somebody.
Does Marc Bergevin, has he turned his calendar to 2017?
Well, no, Dallas took his guy, so he wanted to take Dallas's guy.
Oh yeah, that's a real good trade up.
The only one they had.
You know what? Next thing he's gonna do is he's gonna trade Galchenyuk for fucking Jason Spezza and be like, we made out on this deal. Have you seen Spezza's stats? Number 1 center.
Hey.
Even though he's making $7 million until the fucking end of the fucking era.
You laugh now.
2 more years,
could
actually.
happen.
I know.
Him and Sagan are up at the same time.
I know.
Yeah,
but he had a huge it was 7x7 when he signed it, wasn't it?
7.5 by 7.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a bad contract.
Well, it's worked out decently for them if they can get back in the playoffs this year. Last year,
because they're stocking up to it, which we'll get into in a second.
I
But
also have to say, where does Dallas get all his money from?
I don't know. I was
moon!
saying the same thing. It
because
doesn't
they
make sense.
they signed Radulov, but because
So what was his deal? 5 years?
Are we just going to talk about the Stars now?
Yeah, we'll talk about the Stars now because honestly, Montreal's just a shit show, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun following the Habs all year.
Where does
it's gonna be
Dallas
fun
get?
following the Habs
I
all
was actually
summer
listening
long.
to a guy on the radio that said they were going to be last in the Atlantic this year.
I heard that this morning. Yeah.
I think Detroit will be last. I think they could be second last. They could have the biggest free fall of them all. And then hey, you know what? Maybe they'll be able to draft a center and maybe actually graduate a forward, but probably not. This honestly, I think Montreal's doing what the 2007 Toronto Maple Leafs were doing, just not getting good talent in and holding on to some guy. obviously you have to keep Carey Price, but they're just not making smart managerial decisions at all. They're not.
No.
But you know who is Dallas, and I'm okay with the moves they're making. They brought in Ben Bishop. They bought out Antoniemi. They got Alex Radulov.
They finally have a goaltender.
And with Valiant Nichushkin potentially coming back now that Lindy Ruff's gone, they're going to have a tough offense to play against again. And they actually have defensemen.
Come back till after
next year?
Because he's still got a KHL contract and they don't allow that.
Well,
you can go one way, but you can't go the other way.
You know what? He might be able to get out of it. Well, you can buy out of your own contract, right?
Yeah.
So if Dallas is like, we'll give you $4 million a season, come back. Which, I don't know how much money they have, but they seem to have endless amounts.
Radulov, they signed for $625 a year.
Okay.
Not bad.
Honestly, is a lot less than I thought he was going to get.
On that team, what I thought he was going to get.
I thought he was
on that team, he will still put up points.
Well,
he's not worth 7. He only had 54 points last year.
I know, but
if he's playing with Sagan and
he'll put up points.
In free agency, you overpay a la Ron Hainsey's deal, which we'll talk about.
They also signed Martin Hanzal for $475 a year. Not bad.
So their top 3 centermen are Tyler Sagan, Jason Spezza,
and Martin Hanzal.
That's pretty solid, and you're gonna, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
They got a lot better, except what's their defense?
They dumped Patrick Sharp, they dumped Hemsky, they lost Cody Eakin, so a couple guys out.
And then on top of that, you buy out
Antoniemi's
contract.
Yeah. Mark Mathot, John Klinberg, Dan Hamhuis.
There you go. That's your top pairing.
It goes downhill from there, though.
Yeah, I know.
Essa Lindell. Yeah, like a lot of...
Do they still have Jamie Oleksiak?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an RFA, so he needs a contract. So,
they might go out and sign depth
guys.
guys.
Their defense isn't terrible.
Paul Postman should have gone there.
He'd be a 3-4 guy there.
The thing with them is they've never had a problem with offense. It's always the defense. It's like the Jets, right? Defense and goaltending.
But you know what, Ben Bishop there, he could really help that team out.
Sagan needs a new contract at the end of next year.
Yeah, at the same time as
Spezza. So Spezza's up, so that's not bad.
And then Montreal will sign Spezza for the moon, and they'll be like, we'll give you 8 years at $6 million. We don't care that you're 36. You're going to get 8 years at $6 million. How old is he actually? 34.
Well,
yeah, we don't care.
Maybe 36 at the
time. We don't care that you're going to be 36. We'll give you 8 years because we need a number 1 center. Because that's how Marc Bergevin deals.
He won't be there by then.
No.
He's done after this year.
I think he's going to get fired midway through this season.
I will say this, though. Dallas's top 6 is very good. But if you go beyond that,
there's not a lot there.
Nothing special.
So, they won the division 2 years ago.
Yes.
Can they go back to that, or are they not good enough?
They should be a playoff team.
They'll be a playoff team. I'm not disputing that, especially
we're going to find out, right? The problem is always goaltending and defense. Yeah. They address that. It's like the Jets, right? I mean, their offensive talent's probably a little higher end right now than the Jets is, but...
I wouldn't put too much. Not by a lot, though.
Their stars are better, but the Jets overall probably have more depth.
Yeah.
I mean, and even statistically, their stars actually really don't put up that much.
Both Sagan and Ben had down years last year.
They'll get 80
Shifley
points.
had more points than both of them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they should contend. I mean, they could contend for
the division.
They should make the playoffs. They should contend for the division. I mean,
I think the division is more wide open than it's ever been because then you look at what.
But I also right now think the Jets could contend for the division.
Well,
with the team that they have right now and some of the moves the other teams have made, I think
I 100% agree.
Chicago's done,
which was sign Patrick Sharp.
Well,
and get rid of Marcus Kruger.
Get the boys back together.
You talk about the Panarin and Saad deal.
Yeah.
Everything that they've done, it's a total step backwards. And getting rid of Chalmerson,
because they
Quenneville didn't even go to the draft. Quenneville didn't even go to the draft. He was so pissed off that they traded Chalmerson.
Oh, really?
That he went on Saturday, but on the Friday when they had the first round done, he refused to go to the draft because he was so mad that they traded Chalmerson. Because now he doesn't have those 3 guys. He was always happy when he had Oduya, Chalmerson, and then Seabrook and Keith. Now he has 2 of them.
Exactly.
I think Chicago...
And I wanted to focus on the central teams just for a little bit because they all seem to be active during free agency.
Chicago has $665,000 in cap space.
Well, and the other issue is they just signed Patrick Sharp. So they don't really have a lot of mobility, so they could take a step back as well. Then you look at the Blues. They don't have a top-line center, really, after losing David Backes. They don't have someone to step in there. Sure, Jaden Schwartz, Vladimir Tarasenko, Alex Steen, great players. I would take them on my team any day.
He plays on the wing, too, by the way.
And
I
they
know, that's
also-
what I mean. They
also-
don't have a number one center.
They also
Okay, I
lost
thought you
David
were
Perron
talking-
for nothing, which I mean
Exactly.
he's
So
a
they-
good bottom six guy, third line guy.
They also traded Yuri Laterra. They also
Braden Shen.
got rid of Ryan Reeves. They brought in Brayden Shen, once again, not a top line center. They bring in Chris Thorburn, who I don't think is as good as Ryan Reeves is.
Not
but
even close.
but it's the same role, right?
Same role, exactly. At the end of the day, this division has, I think, a top dog, and then everyone else. And the top dog's Nashville. The Nick Bonino signing, the Alexei Emelin trade, they have 5 great D-men. Or, okay, Emelin being a great D-man might be an overstatement.
Yeah.
4 great D-men, a very good defenseman, and then whoever else you want to slot in with them. You've got 3 solid centers now with Yarncroke, Bonino, and Johansson.
I do
Because
think
Bonino is slotting in where Mike Fisher played.
I do
and
think
he can
losing
slot in
James
there.
Neal is gonna hurt more than people think.
Actually,
Because
yeah.
Nick Bonino's he's not the same.
Well, no,
Let's
not
also
at all.
talk about how no one was saying how good Nashville was until this playoff run.
I said it last year. I picked them to win that division.
but they look very
Because
mediocre.
I thought the
Look,
PKs
exactly, they look very
They look
mediocre,
very mediocre.
until
I mean,
playoffs.
like
Yeah,
I
thank you.
their last game of the year,
But I
they-
also said that Subban will help that team, and he did.
like their last game of the year they played here against the Jets, they didn't look very good.
No, and you know I think they're a roller coaster team because they don't generate a lot of offense. They're not an offensive powerhouse team, but bringing in depth guys like Nick Bonino, Calle Yarncroke's another year older. The other guy they lost was Colin Wilson, which could hurt them.
That
maybe,
was a
maybe not.
weird move for a 4th round
I
pick.
think they're still going after Duchesne.
Well, and you know
They've
what?
gotta
If they
be-
get
they've gotta
Duchesne,
be
that's a
getting-
whole different story.
Yeah.
They've got to be doing something big because you don't unload a contract like Colin Wilson unless you're going after something. And really, with the names left, there isn't anyone that jumps off the page at you that's worth $5 million because they essentially unloaded Colin Wilson's contract.
It's gonna come from a trade.
It's going to come via trade. Maybe they're working on getting Alex Galchenyuk. I don't know. Maybe we do Subban for Galchenyuk and then Subban can go back to
There we
Montreal.
go.
I'm just kidding.
If I look at the Central right now, though, I would give you Nashville as the favorite just because they were just in the final. That'll
Yeah.
carry over. But if you look at everyone else, like honestly,
it's a
Other than
clusterfuck.
Colorado.
Yeah,
Colorado's
it's
going to be bad.
I
But
would say it's
I honestly right
Nashville, clusterfuck, Colorado.
now, if you wanted me to rank like in my mind how these teams are right now, I would put Nashville on top. I'd put Minnesota second, and then
You
take your.
also got to look at the moves they're going to have to make, like with the
Yeah.
cap and with Niederreiter.
He needs a
and,
contract.
Granlund also needs a contract. So
they
might have
lost
to
Eric
unload
Colla.
Eric
They
Hall,
lost
Scandella.
Scandella and
Yeah.
Palmanville, which no big deal there, but
Palmerville goes
I
back
would
to
put
Buffalo.
them there just because of their coach and where they were last year again. But then honestly, 3-4 to me, take your pick out of Winnipeg and Dallas, whatever order you want. And I think St. Louis and Chicago fall below that, and then Colorado's the bottom.
That's fair.
That's how I'm looking at it right now.
No, and
Maybe
and
I'm
makes
overly
sense.
optimistic because the Jets finally, they have one of the more talented rosters in that division now.
Well, they had a
If you look at
talented
what the
roster
other
last
teams
year.
are like, if you look at what some of the other what happened to Chicago, and they have the talent, I think they can do it.
I made
It's-
the
it's
argument
gonna be
that I think
interesting.
the Jets have the best defensive core in the league right now.
And their offense
On
is
paper,
pretty damn
maybe.
good too.
On
so-
paper, yeah, it's just how it transfers to actual
I think they
play.
have one of the better top sixes on paper in the
Yeah.
league too.
I'll agree with that as well, and I think that
Just
they
have to
have
put it all
built exactly. They got to put it together. They have to have every piece working, and you saw it last year with this team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, that everything seemed to work.
They also sustained 0 fucking injuries.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
That's-
Everything worked for them last year. Everything worked in their favor, and they ended up making the playoffs. So if the Jets can have that work in their favor, playoffs are there. Another team that's similar, in my opinion, could be Carolina. There could be a lot going there.
They still
can
need
make the
some
playoffs.
offense. They do.
They're
Bring in
moving,
just
though.
Williams. Like I know what they need to do. Trade Hannafin for Duchesne.
Apparently,
Straight
they're,
up.
apparently they're going
That's
after Duchesne.
gotta be the
Yeah.
trade. If Colorado doesn't take that, they're stupid.
You have such a good defensive core there that you can. They already lost Ryan Murphy, which doesn't sting a tongue because he was a fringe guy. But if you trade Hannafin for Duchesne, I think that brings in the offense that you need. And now you have Skinner, him, and who's the other
You
guy?
got Victor Rask. You
Or
got Teravainen,
well, no,
you have
no.
Williams, you have-
Teravainen,
Their
Rask, and Lindholm is their second line.
Their
their first line would be Sebastian Aho.
They also
with
did
Skinner
did
and
just
Boucher.
acquire-
And then put Stahl
on
on
the
their
third line.
which is where he should be.
They also did acquire Marcus Kruger today. Ironically, after they also acquired Trevor Van Riemsdyk. So Chicago basically did the same thing with two guys. They traded Van Riemsdyk to Vegas, who Vegas traded him to Carolina. Blackhawks then traded Marcus Kruger to Vegas, who then traded Marcus Kruger to Carolina.
So they already had that deal.
So Kruger and Van Riemsdyk.
The reason why Kruger took time was they were going to pay his signing bonus,
Right.
and Vegas didn't want to pay for it.
Honestly, though, Carolina to me, they could make the dark horse for playoffs.
Yep.
I've been saying
They're not
that
as
for
old
years.
as New
They keep
Jersey.
screwing me.
And you keep in mind, Scott Darling's going to be their goalie this year.
Right.
Yep. Okay.
Oh,
So-
fun note about Chicago: they have 5 defensemen signed right now,
I know.
and they only have $600,000 left in
Yeah, I
the
know.
salary cap.
not
But
even
is
league
Hossa
minimum.
counting on it?
Yeah.
Yes, so that
So
could come
Hossa
off.
will be taken off. Which
But-
Hossa makes what? 6?
Who are they going to sign?
Walden.
Oh, do you? He didn't get picked up anybody yet, right?
Yeah, why not? Why not
Bring
just
him back.
bring back Campbell and Oduya for $500,000, $525 each. There you go.
Works.
League
I'm
minimum. They can just
to
keep
me,
bringing back.
Chicago this year, if there's
Cam
ever a year
Barker.
they're not going to make playoffs,
They'll
this year.
bring
It
back
could be
Cam
this year.
Barker. They'll find wherever he is and they'll bring him back.
I just think Chicago is slowly, them being a good team has slowly caught up to them.
Well, yeah,
Which
it
is-
catches
it's
up.
gonna
with them.
happen.
It's the cap hits too. Like
Like you have to look at like you look
10
at
and a half for
you look at Winnipeg right now. Winnipeg's maybe just starting what Chicago started 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Chicago's on the tail end of it, right? So
Yeah, and same with Toronto. They're in the same place. But Toronto made a big signing Patrick Marleau for the next 3 years at $6.25 million a season.
That
And
wasn't a big signing Toronto did.
No,
Ron
have,
Hainsey,
have you heard?
Stanley Cup champion Ron Hainsey.
Hey, something
Who's
that
Patrick Marleau? Who's
Patrick Marleau's never won.
Never won a cup.
Never won a cup. You're right. I guess I'll be the one who answers my own question
yes,
about
answer
how I
your
feel
questions,
about this.
please.
Patrick Marleau and Ron Hainsey are old. The Toronto Maple Leafs are young. They need guys like this if they're going to succeed. You look at any team that wins, you have a good core of veterans, and you've got the rookies that help propel them. You know, it worked for the Ducks back in the day when they still had Scott Niedermayer. Now, granted, Ron Hainsey's no Scott Niedermayer, but you had Scott Niedermayer, and you still had guys like Andy McDonald, Teemu Selanne were on that 07 Ducks team.
Rob Niedermeyer. Don't forget about Rob.
He was a fourth liner.
He was there.
He was there.
I know he was, but I don't count him. It's like, I think Saku Koivu was on the 07 team as well.
Yeah.
You had old veterans that helped the young guys out. I don't mind the Patrick Marleau deal. I think that it could hurt a little bit in year 3, considering they'll have to sign Matthews and Marner that year, as well as look at new contracts for. During that span, they have to sign Carrick. They have to sign Jake Gardner over that time, which I don't know what their plan is moving forward there. And the Ron Hainsey deal to me was a lot of money, like 2 years at $3 million.
See, you know what? I always
It's
look
not
at
that
it
bad.
this.
Like, it really isn't that bad. But at the end of the day, is he a bottom pairing defenseman? Like, I don't know if he's better than Matt Hunwick. I don't know if he
don't
is.
have to worry about it until your guys are signed. That's how I looked
I
at
know.
the Steve Mason
Yeah.
deal too. Like, because Cam was saying it was too much money, but it doesn't matter if it's a bad contract for the next 2 years because that's Liney's money anyway. So you got to keep it for Liney, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think the Marleau deal you can flip in a couple years. Like, once the next 2 years are done, you
You've
can
got
probably
lots
move
of.
that.
I'm just looking at
The problem with
at
the
your
Leafs,
roster right
the
now.
problem with the Leafs is you have to look at it like William Nylander's up at the end of next season. How much is he going to get?
Here's your guys that are up at the end of next year: Lupul, which won't be back;
Nope.
JVR, Tyler Bozak, Leo Komarov,
Who you have to sign?
Eric Fair, Dominic Moore. Those guys
They're
probably
not
won't be
gonna-
back.
They're not going to sign them.
The Dominic Moore signing I like though. He's a good
I
player.
really like the Dominic Moore signing. He's played in Toronto before. I've always liked
Nylander's an
Dominic Moore.
RFA.
Yep, they'll re-sign
Connor
him.
Brown and Hyman are RFAs right now.
They'll get them done, and they
Um,
won't make a ton of money. They'll be on small bridge
And you have to
deals.
think that Matthews is going to be in the line A boat. They're probably going to try and sign him at the end of the year.
They'll sign him. They'll sign him going in. I wouldn't be surprised if they sign Marner Matthews
To me,
next season. I wouldn't be
I would
surprised
be
if by the end of the
surprised-
summer if they sign Nylander.
tell me if I'm wrong, but I'd be surprised if either one of or both of JVR and Tyler Bozak is on this team opening night this year. I'll be surprised if one or both of them are on the roster.
I'll be surprised.
I won't be surprised if one. I'll be surprised if both of them are there.
I'll be surprised if both of them make it through the season without being traded, because
Yeah.
Tyler Bozak's a fan. Like, I liked him when he first came in. I've had a love-hate relationship throughout. Like, I never thought he was a number 1 center, especially when he was playing with Phil Kessel.
But he's like the Brian Little, right? He's a very good.
Exactly.
second line.
He's
debatable
still worth a lot, and then you could look at a team like New York who's wanted to get him forever, and now they have that hole at center because they lost Eric Stepan and Oscar Lindbergh.
Oh yeah, but now they don't have the cap space because they signed Shattenkirk.
To a very reasonable
You
deal.
also have
That
to
was
keep
actually no. That made
You
sense.
have to keep
for
in mind too,
everyone.
though. Bozak's he's 31 right now. So.
Yeah, and then the JVR, like he's on such a sweetheart contract that one of them's gonna get moved. You're not keeping both of them. It's unrealistic to think, especially with the Marlowe move, and maybe the Marlowe move was in preparation for the JVR move that's gonna happen because something needs to change. I really don't know, but
Yeah, where does Marlowe slot in on this team?
with Matthews and Nylander, which slides Hyman down to the
Can he
fourth
keep
line.
up with them?
He doesn't need to.
I'm not saying he
Because-
can't. I'm just asking you.
I think he's still got speed in him. I think that he's not going to be the guy carrying the puck. He's not going to be the guy driving the play because that's William Nylander and that's Austin Matthews. So he doesn't need to drive the play on that line, right? He could also be beneficial if he played with Kadri and Komarov, and then you can play Connor Brown up with the other two guys because I think Kadri and Komarov are more his speed, and he can definitely be part of that big body line. Like Marlowe's a good signing. He's been there before. He knows what it takes to win. Well, minus he doesn't actually know what he doesn't know how to win. He knows how to win gold medals. Doesn't know how to win.
But he
cups.
always produces, right? Whether his team does well or not, he always produces.
It's crazy to think that a guy that's been with one franchise his entire career is now going to play somewhere else. Like it's something that is nice to see every once in a while. But I'm sure Sharks fans are a little.
Are you happy
disappointed
with
he's
their
not.
defense?
No,
They've got $20 million invested in their defense.
I'm not happy
Well,
with their
they're
defense.
they're good contracts, so you actually can't be mad at those.
No,
contracts.
the
Do you
Riley,
think
the
that
Zaitsev, like
Yeah,
I don't mind.
And the Gardner deals are good, but are you happy with Hainsey, Marchenko,
no,
Marinson, Connor
No.
Carrick being the other four defensemen?
I'm fine with Connor Carrick there. I think Connor Carrick's a decent defenseman.
So do they need to go? And
Someone
make another
needs to
move?
get picked up so that everyone slides down a pair.
The other thing too is they have a guy like Travis Dermott that could slot in this season. He's a left defenseman. There's a lot of potential there for guys to make it out of camp for them next year. Like, who knows? Who knows how Timothy Liljegren shows up next season? What if Timothy Liljegren comes into camp and he is lights out? Then you now have him on your third line pairing.
He's gonna have
Can
the
he
chance.
sign a contract right now? Because he wants to stay in Sweden. So
He does.
Is he allowed to sign a contract?
As long as he's not in a contract with the Swedish team.
I'm pretty sure he is.
I don't know. Maybe I don't think he can in that case, but you still bring him to camp. You still, you still have to see what you have, right?
Yeah.
So,
Are you happy with their goaltending?
no, I said that I don't. I'm not like I don't mind McElhenney, but
They need a better backup.
goalies. There's better goalies. Like you got to find someone, and you know, did Eddie Lack go somewhere? Eddie Lack went
Any
somewhere.
like went to
Calgary.
Calgary
Yeah.
at a
Okay.
reduced salary.
If you can maybe try to steal Cam Ward away,
Well, they're not going to deal Cam Ward.
Probably
to
not.
They're not gonna deal both, no.
Who else
So,
is
it's
free
tough.
agent right now? Goaltending.
Neuwirth.
No, he's
Neuwirth wouldn't go either because they.
he is a free agent.
Yeah.
Neuwirth's not a free agent. He
no,
signed a two-year
no,
contract.
that's right. He's not in Philly. You're right.
So it's one of those things where I don't. Yeah, there's not a ton available, but I'm sure you can find someone. Maybe Yaroslav Halak.
I mean, he could be
Bring
he
him
could
in.
be available.
Well, they also don't have another backup either because they got rid of Berube in the expansion draft. There's not a lot of goalies out there for everyone.
Oh,
Looking
sorry.
good.
This is next year. No, this is this year.
For what? Yeah, there's just not. Or they like Niemi was signed by Pittsburgh, so that's not
Robin
an option.
Lehner's an RFA. You guys could offer sheet him.
No, that's silly. I don't want that much crazy on my team.
No, he's the
That's-
only
He is
guy
a
popping
nut
up
job,
there.
He
eh?
is. Yeah, he's crazy. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Yeah, so Leafs. I don't know. It'll be a
Here's
wait
a
and
guy
see
you could
type
go
thing.
after. Dennis Weidman.
No, I think it's a wait and see kind of year for the Leafs. They might make the play. Like I think if they miss the playoffs, it'll be a disappointment. They should make the playoffs, but who knows?
Well,
Like
with
that
everyone
division.
getting a year older, but the thing is the
That
sophomore
division's better.
slumps.
That division's better though. The Lightning picked up Girardi and Kunitz.
Yeah, but you're better than Montreal, so you're dropping
Okay,
down
so you're-
one. You're
so you're-
dropping one up, dropping one down.
Florida's got to be better than what they were last year.
Greg, Cody Franz is
It could
available.
be actually.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Leafs go after Cody Franzen.
Simone Dupre.
Another
Actually,
guy they
good
could
one,
go
too,
after.
He's a good PK guy.
Yeah, like there are options out there. It just depends how much money they want to spend because of the fact they have to have a plan moving forward, considering the fact that they have to sign 3 guys to, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Marner, Nylander, and Matthews cost them $33 million.
Yeah.
It's $11 million each. One makes 12, one makes 11, the other one makes 10.
I wouldn't like to see that because Ehlers is getting what Nylander gets, and that's probably
Yeah,
the 10,
because
right?
that's true. If he gets that, then Ehlers gets that.
But you might be able to sign Nylander for $8 million or
See, I'm
seven
more
and a half.
comfortable with those guys being around the 7-8.
Yeah, but you don't know, right? Like,
No, in 7-8's expensive for guys that have only ever put up 60 points.
Wow, you have to assume that their
It's
production's
getting
going to go up this
ridiculous.
year, right?
but it's paying for the future, right? Because like, I don't know if the Leon Draisaitl for $10 million is worth it, but I'm still like, I don't know why
No, he's had 1 year.
no.
Well, yeah, but you look at what he did in the playoffs. He was
Well, I
the
know.
catalyst that got them
Yeah.
over the Ducks. It
But
wasn't McDavid. It was
he's-
Draisaitl that pushed them over the Ducks.
What?
I wouldn't give it to him now. I'd give it to him.
Why
a year
hasn't
from
an
now.
asshole douchey GM offer sheeted
Montreal.
Leon Draisaitl yet, or Montreal? Put them in
It
a
might be
corner.
coming.
Put them in a corner. Back them in. Because honestly, how funny would it be if someone signs Galchenyuk? Now Montreal, sure they got picks for him, but what are they going to do? They either have to sign Galchenyuk or lose him for picks that might not turn out. You sign him for that $9.6 million, which means you only have to give up a first, 2 seconds, and a fourth, or whatever it is, or 2 firsts, a second, and a fourth, and it's like 9.6. Why wouldn't you do it? Just throw it out there, because really, at the end of the day, if you're saying that you could get Leon Draisaitl for a first, 2 seconds, and a fourth, that's not a bad deal.
Yep.
Especially if you're a team that's gonna go for it. Like,
You know what? There's the thing. If you're going for it, give up the 4 first rounders too. Like you could even do that because if you're gonna put them in a corner, put them in a corner that they can't fucking match it.
yeah,
Just fucking do it. Like
why not? So yeah, obviously these RFAs are gonna be interesting as we move forward. Lindback also goes back to the Predators. He started his career there, but he's kind of
They
fallen
also
off.
brought back Scott Hartnell.
Yes,
Which
I really
I-
like that contract. I like that
Hey.
deal. I think it'll help them.
Hey.
The
I feel
con-
to me that's we need to do something deal.
The other move that I really liked was Nail Yakupov getting signed by the Colorado Avalanche for
Low
1 year,
risk.
$875.
Low risk, low reward.
Low risk, potential reward, but he didn't play well in St. Louis. Who knows? Maybe something.
He didn't play well in Edmonton either.
Something can revive his life. I don't know.
just play with McKinnon and hope something works out.
Yeah, really. That's all they have. It's not going to be with Carl Soderberg.
Why did
is
they
that
just get
contract?
rid of Grigorenko?
What are they trading her
They didn't trade him. They just let him go for free. They didn't tender his or
And he didn't get
qualify
picked
him.
up by anybody. Did
He's
he?
in Russia now. CSKA, I'm pretty
Oh.
sure. I think he's going to
Yeah.
go play with Kovalchuk and Datsuk.
Oh, that was the other thing today. Kovalchuk staying in the KHL for
Yeah,
another year.
yeah, I saw that.
So he will be a hot UFA a year from now.
Grigorenko, eh? Like, I always thought he would turn into something, but I guess...
I
He's
still
never
think
done.
he can, but you're not going to turn anything with like the team that freaking Colorado had last
No, it's
year.
true.
Like, their
But
best
they have
player,
Mikko
like,
Rantanen. I want Mikko Rantanen to succeed.
But their defense, man, like
Their defense is terrible.
they did sign Jonathan Bernier, backup goalie, but I don't think they needed another goalie. I think they needed defense.
well, they
Well,
did
they-
need a goalie because Pickard's
Yeah,
gone,
What
yeah.
they should have done is protected Pickard and let
but you
Varlamov.
wouldn't have lost.
You wouldn't have lost
Varlamov.
Varlamov. No one's taking that. And I think Joe Sakic's got to be done soon. As much as I like Joe Sakic, I think it's better if you're not working for the team you used to play
Well,
for.
it's not just that. He hasn't done anything good.
No,
He hasn't done anything good yet.
no. He's picked the guys that have fallen into his lap.
He
basically.
drafted McKinnon. That was the only thing he's done well this far.
Yeah,
And that was
and he
pretty
drafted
easy to do.
Connor
exactly.
Bleakley, who they never signed, and then re-entered the draft in the 4th round. So that shows you what
Yeah.
kind of drafting they had. So another big signing, obviously, was the Andre Pavlik signing to the Rangers.
backup goaltender.
1 mil, 1 year,
1.3.
1.3 for 1 year, and then also they signed Kevin Shattenkirk for 4 years at 6.85 a year.
Yep.
Right.
6.5.
Yeah.
A year?
Yeah.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
4 years. They went lower term, higher. No, apparently he turned down more money.
He did. He wanted to play.
He wanted to play at home.
I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah, it was.
He is. Let's see here. Yeah, 6.65
6.65. Yeah.
for 4 years.
I think that's a little expensive for Shattenkirk.
On top of they signed Brendan Smith for almost $4.5 million.
That's a lot of money for Brendan Smith.
He's
Holy
a good
crap.
defenseman, but I don't think he's worth that much money.
How
Wow.
about the guy they bought out? Where'd he go?
Dan
Tampa?
Girardi?
Tampa, right?
He went to
already
Tampa,
went to Tampa, yeah.
2 years, $3 million a year, which personally, that's a great contract.
Way better contract than the Shattenkirk
They
one.
did sign David
the
Desharnais.
what?
Than the Shattenkirk one.
Yeah.
The Rangers signed Desharnais today for 1 year, $1 million. Good deal to me.
Weird that these guys who used to play for Montreal just continue to bounce around and
Funny.
What about
Find work.
Cavallari? 1 million.
1 million
the
in,
Kings, right?
in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Los Angeles signed someone else as well. That was another depth signing. They signed another guy who was depth signing. Regardless, the San Jose
think that
Sharks
would be good.
decided to shore up their defense along with their goalies, signing both.
They
Mark
signed
Edward
Darcy
Glass.
Kemper as a goaltender.
That's who it was.
They did not sign, as far as I can tell, they did not sign anybody
No,
else.
that was
yet.
who I meant. Was that they
But
signed us.
Evander Kane rumors are still. I was reading something today. They still.
Oh, really?
So as I was saying before, Dan
Might
rudely
be
interrupted
going
me.
Sorry.
The San Jose Sharks
Suck it.
signed Edward Vlasic and Martin Jones. So both of them
The Martin Jones contract's fantastic. That
Yeah.
plastic one's way too much money.
Oh, yeah.
way too long.
That too.
Both.
It goes till he's 38.
Terrible.
Maybe not too much. That's what I was saying. Too long.
Too long. I think he's worth the money
Too
that
much
he's getting
money
paid.
overall.
I do not
the
think he's
problem-
worth $7 million a year.
He's such a good
Do you,
defenseman.
do you watch a lot of Sharks games? Because he's
No.
actually really good.
I know he's good.
He allows them to not put their best two defensemen on two lines. On one line, sorry. Like,
Yeah.
because he's so good that he can play with whoever and make that person
I
good.
think he's playing with like
And-
Braun or something.
Yeah, and Burns can play with someone else and make him look good. So
Yeah.
they basically have a top four for whatever top four they want because they have two guys that can make whoever they're playing with really good.
Yep. Do you think $8 million for Joe Thornton was too much?
For 1 year, it's a low risk contract.
It's the thing. It's one of those
Is he
things that it
back
doesn't
next
matter.
year?
The year after, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's gonna be 39. Does he just call it?
Or he says, "Hey, Patty, saw that you're having a great year with Toronto. Why don't I come
Hey,
play for a season?"
You laugh
They
now,
lose-
but apparently they did try and get both.
Yeah, they did.
They did at least discuss the possibility of
There
getting
is
both.
no way Joe Thornton is going to the Leafs.
What
And
if?
I've already told
What
you
if?
why. I've already told you why. He's not shaving
How
the
do they
beard.
afford that?
He's
That's
not
fine.
shaving
They're not
the
going to
beard.
force him.
Oh, yes, Lou will. That is in the contract. Lou puts it into the contract. You must be clean shaven.
How do they
This is
afford?
how I run business.
How do they afford both? You tell me that.
Okay, well, Joe Thornton will be on his last contract, so he'll be like, "I just want to win, so I'll sign a beauty $1 million." This will be, he's like, "Lou Lamoriello, I'm Joe Thornton. I'll come play for your team for 1 year at $1 million if I don't have to shave my beard." There you go. That's the perfect scenario. That's how you win. That's what you get. You're like, "Oh, so every inch I have to cut off is another million. Every inch I have to shave. That's another $1 million. Another $1 million, Lou. You have to shave the whole thing, $7 million." Regardless,
Another team that I've been sort of
Kinda all I had
surprised
on
with
my
their
list.
moves, New Jersey. Bringing in Brian Boyle, not the worst move.
It's a good depth, like a really
Good depth move.
Brian Boyle's
they
one
just
of the best fourth line center. Like
Oh,
probably he's the best
fantastic.
fourth line center in the game.
fantastic.
the thing
They-
about Brian Boyle is he not only is he probably the best fourth line center, he's also played everywhere.
They also signed.
In
Or,
the East.
sorry, they made a trade for Marcus Johansson. Not a bad
That was,
player
a
at all.
good, that was actually a really good deal for them.
What did they get for that? I didn't see that
Didn't
one.
they give him a couple picks?
Yeah, it was just a couple picks. 'cause
So now
they're
you have a
trying
guy
A
to
second
play.
and a third, maybe.
Now you have a guy to play alongside Taylor Hall as well.
You talking
Yep.
about the Kuznetsov? deal.
That's
That
what I
was
was going to move to
expensive.
now. 8 years, $7.8 million.
Ugh.
Does this mean that they're going to transition and maybe lose Backstrom?
They also signed Burakovsky today.
Burakovsky for 6.8, I believe.
Over 2 years, though.
Over 2 years.
So 3.4 a year.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So,
Um,
what do you think about Kuznetsov and I guess how Washington's going to be? Because Washington
They've
spent the
definitely taken a
farm
step
on.
I did not realize how much Kuznetsov got.
Yeah,
Yeah,
7.8
it was a
million a year.
lot.
I mean,
So-
that's
And they signed Dmitri Orlov.
that's
for
a deal that you
a lot
hope
of
he
money,
grows
too.
into that money because he's not worth that money right now.
You know, we said
He's
the
a
same thing
decent
about
player.
Scheifele last year. Now
Well,
he's
yeah.
over.
But
But here's the
Scheifele's
thing.
making almost $2
Who's
million
better,
less than that.
Scheifele or Evgeny Kuznetsov? Who would
Scheifele.
you rather have?
Right now,
Without a
Scheifele.
doubt.
Right now,
And
Scheifele.
who's making more money?
Kuznetsov.
Kuznetsov by quite a bit.
By 1.5 million.
And I don't think Kuznetsov a $1.5 million player more than Scheifele. And Scheifele also doesn't, like, before his contract, before Scheifele signed his contract, he didn't get to play with a top-tier elite sniper.
See, and to
And
me,
he's
Before he
not a
signed his deal.
douche when he scores.
oh, the bird.
What's
I
wrong?
hate that.
Okay,
I
Dawn.
hate it.
Okay.
I hate it.
Get with the times.
To me,
Let the kid have fun.
to me right now, this is another team that to me is worse than they were at
Washington?
the end of the year.
Well, yeah, they lost Shattenkirk,
What
they
are they
lost
gonna do?
Alsner,
Their
they lost
defense.
Williams,
They lost Alsner, Shattenkirk, and Nate Schmidt.
and Nate Schmidt.
It was supposed to be in their top 4 this year. Now they're looking
They
for
lost
a
all
defenseman.
3 of those guys.
Well,
and they're-
Madison Bowie is going to.
They lost all 3 of those
He's
guys,
gonna have to.
Yeah, he's going to.
and their D still cost $21 million.
Well, it's because John Carlson makes a lot of money. Dmitri
Brooks Orpik contract
Oh, yeah,
is
Orpik's
terrible.
and same with Matt Niskanen.
Niskanen is not terrible because he's still a top 4 guy.
Yeah, that's
No,
fair.
that's a decent deal.
What's
But
the Dmitri Orlov? Because they signed that
5.1.
recently.
That was a big one.
That's
That's a
too much
lot.
money for him.
That's a lot.
He is no better than Dmitri Kulikov.
No, but he's younger by 2 years. You look at this team though. Again, they have hope piece that they might be okay, but I don't know. I'm not optimistic. They only have 10 forwards and
They're
5.
definitely going to
5
take a
D.
step back.
So,
They're not going to
yeah.
be the President's Trophy winner again,
No.
like the last,
No.
2-3 years?
No.
They'll be a playoff team, but
Yeah,
they're not going to be a cup pick.
They
for
might
me.
even be a wild card this year.
They might.
I could see
Which will
Columbus
probably
and
play
Pittsburgh are going to be better than them for sure. And then there's
I wanna talk
always
about
a
that.
team that...
About Columbus?
About Pittsburgh,
Oh, about Pittsburgh.
because I don't think they're
All that good?
I think they got worse too.
Well, they definitely got worse, but you got to remember they're bringing Letang back next year, too.
Well,
which
yeah.
also
They
helps.
lost
yes.
Nick Bonino,
Yes,
though.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but there's always a third line center that they're going to go and find in the rough because that's what they always do. They
Yes.
always find someone. It's,
Well, they traded.
To me, though, their defense though they lost. Granted, you can say what you want about them, but they lost Trevor Daley and they lost Ron Hainsey, and the only guy they brought in was Matt Hunwick.
Ooh, Matt
I-
Funwick.
Hunwick for
Matt
Hainsey isn't that
Funwick.
big of a
He's
difference.
not terrible,
No.
but
One guy plays on the right side, one guy plays on the
actually
left.
to be fair, I'd rather have Hunwick because he makes almost $1 million less than Hainsey.
Yep.
So,
But it's Matt Funwick. who
did they
looks
sign
good at
Justin
times.
Schultz to 5-5?
You have to, though, because you don't know what Letang's
Yeah.
future is because he might be done for his career.
That's true.
So here's the other thing.
They also brought in
is-
Anthony Emmy for $700,000, which I think is fantastic for a backup.
Yeah. So here's my question:
But
if
he's
Letang
on. But
doesn't
he's
come
also
back,
on buy-out money, so
if he doesn't come back,
Who?
Letang, how much does that hurt Pittsburgh?
The way Schultz has been playing, it hurts them, but not as much as it should.
that's
because
true. He
Schultz
has
came
been.
out of friggin' nowhere playing with Edmonton because he was terrible.
Yeah.
Goes to Pittsburgh
Yeah.
and all of a sudden starts playing well. It's a weird what a good...
He did what he
team
was
does.
supposed to in Edmonton.
Yeah, it just took him a while to
It
get
just took him to get to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I don't like. I still think giving up a first-round pick for Brian Reeves is the worst trade in the last 5 years.
You know what? They want to protect their stars.
I get it, but a first-round pick, that's bad.
Pretty funny.
bad.
I guess it's time to wrap up. We basically covered everything I wanted to cover today.
Where do you think Yager goes?
I wouldn't mind him in Winnipeg.
I
Well,
would.
no, where do you think-
Toronto.
Where do you
No,
think he
I'm
ends
kidding.
up though? Because he wants to be in
Montreal.
that mentor role. So I was actually
Colorado.
thinking Carolina.
Why not?
I was thinking
No,
Carolina.
go to
you know where he's
Carolina.
going?
Where?
Nashville.
Oh, I'd love that.
They've got $20 million in cap space.
Do they actually? Well, they still have to sign Johansson though.
They do.
$5 million.
But still,
Yeah, but they've got the money.
Yager's at this point. If Yager wants to play, he might not be $5 million like he was getting.
What about going back to where it all started?
Pittsburgh.
The Washington Capitals.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know he started with Pittsburgh,
Oh,
but he
yeah.
did play for them.
We did, yeah.
It's where his best years were.
Oh.
No, never mind. It was all with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he won 2 cups in Pittsburgh.
Won 2 cups, and then didn't he win all of his scoring titles in Pittsburgh?
He might have.
Yeah, I think so.
I was too young.
I'm just.
I'm incorrect about everything on this part of it.
I'm just glancing at the Vegas Golden Knights page. By the way, they signed zero free. They signed some free. They signed 0 notable free agents, which I was surprised with. I thought at least they'd sign 1 or 2 guys that you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, by the way,
RFA and UFAs after this year, eh?
By the way,
That was the point.
they're-
Dadonov
they only
signed
have
with
$9
Florida.
million in cap space left, and their team sucks.
Well, yeah.
That's
Like,
fine.
their
They
team
have some.
sucks.
We
They
all
have some
knew it was
old
going to
money.
happen.
They have some old
Their
money.
forwards are okay, but
Their D's rough.
D sucks. The goaltending is okay.
They should have picked more goalies.
Are you surprised that they didn't make a move for someone?
I really thought they were going to get a bunch of goalies and then start trading them up. But now that I look at it, maybe they did do the right thing because there's not a lot of teams looking for goalies now.
Like, obviously, you pick Ranta from New York. Now you have a bargaining chip over
For-
anybody who
I'm
wants
surprised that they didn't take him because the Jets and the Coyotes both were interested.
him. Yeah.
So why not?
I'm surprised they didn't take Grubauer to be their future.
Well, now you put Washington in a tough spot because of Nate Schmidt, right?
You do.
So yeah. The last question I want to end today off with is who is either going to get traded or signed by the time next time we do podcast,
Matt Duchene will get
will
traded
be
in like 20 minutes.
more of a surprise.
He'll be traded 20 minutes from now when we are not doing this
So
anymore.
the Matt Duchene trade
I think it's
is what
gonna
Dan's
happen.
going with. What are you going with?
Ooh. I don't know. Give me a sec. Come back to me. You do
I'm
it.
thinking an Alex Galchenyuk trade or signing will happen before next podcast.
Yeah.
Because Marc Bergevin needs to do something to instill some confidence within that fan base right now.
I'm gonna say
I can-
McGinley gets signed.
Yeah.
To Winnipeg.
Not to win. I could. You know what? It wouldn't be bad because
You get him for cheap.
If you get him cheap, but
He
the
put up
thing
14
is,
goals last year.
He's only gonna play on your fourth line.
Apparently, he's really good in the power play still. Our power
He's
play
still
sucks,
a
so
good
maybe-
hockey player. I'd take him on any team. I don't know, like,
I'm just gonna float this
The
out
thing
there.
is there's his possession numbers are really bad now.
yeah, well,
Ju-
yeah.
Just looking at the guys that are left, if the Jets are gonna go after a guy for their bottom six,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. If you can get him for half of what he's making before,
Are you
even
gonna say
less.
Shane Doan?
No,
Who?
bring him back, Drew Stafford. If you can get him for like $1 million, I'd put him back on the. I'd put him on the third line.
He's
or
salty
fourth
about
line.
getting traded in the first place.
Probably. He had to know. I don't know.
He had to know his role.
Judging by his interview when he left, he didn't sound pissed.
Fair enough.
I think he wanted to get traded at that point because he wasn't in a top 6 role.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He didn't want.
But I mean, at this
I
point,
don't think he's a top 6 player anymore.
Not anymore. But if he's not getting picked up, if you can get him for cheap, I'd bring him back.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should. I'm just it's a name out there.
he'd be on their fourth line.
UC Okanen's also available.
I don't know if I take. I don't know if I take a
If you
flyer
get
on
him for
but-
cheap though, right?
Yeah. Is he related to Ole Okinen or no?
No.
There's no relation there. They just
Yeah,
have the same
Shane
last name.
Doan didn't get picked up. Eh? That's a little.
I don't think it's surprising.
Where's he go?
His numbers
He's
have
either
dropped.
he's either retiring and going into the front office,
That's what. Yeah.
or
That
actually, I
relationship.
think that's the only place to.
That
go.
relationship's rough right now, though.
Where's he going?
I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he's done. I like his progress. Like his ability has just dropped because he's older, right?
Bring him to
So
Winnipeg, and the career where he started it. There, come on.
no.
You know you want to see it, Greg.
Regardless, we have to end this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to engage with the show in any way, shape, or form, check us out on YouTube, Last Man In Podcast. Email the show, lastmaninpc@gmail.com. Tweet at the show at lastmaninpc on Twitter, or look at us anywhere you get your podcasts, Last Man In Podcast. And that is all. And next week, Cam will be back, so we can make fun of him in person.
We can
instead of
get
just
his
over
real thoughts on Steve Mason. Do you think there's a guy with a Chris Mason jersey who's just crossing his fingers
That he
that
takes
Steve
them-
Mason takes 50?
Yes, there's that one person.
I thought about that the other day.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for listening. See you next week.